good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are around the world. Uh, this afternoon, this morning, wherever you are, we're going to be talking about why professional development is so important. I have Chief Retired Bob Vasquez here, and he is going to give us some words of wisdom. We're going to have a discussion and just have a relaxing conversation. How are you doing, Chief?
I'm good. I'm good. Always good. Or else. You get to a point in your life where the or else is not a very good option. No, everything's good. I'm in Colorado right now, in Monument, Colorado, and we had a couple of feet of snow. If you watch the news, all that hoopla. Well, it was true. It came down pretty hard and for a long time. So it's gone. We started shoveling out yesterday, and we have snow forecasted for tonight again. So we'll see. But this should be only an inch or two, we hope. But you never know. That's the great thing about being out here, is that you never know what you're going to get. And if you wait 5 minutes, it'll change. So, I can deal with that. It's exciting.
Awesome. Well, Chief sent me this book recently, and it's called Simple Truths. And I started looking at it, and there's something about learning in the first chapter that kind of stuck out with me. And I thought it would be a great talking point. Education is more than just schooling. It is a cast of mind, a willingness to see the world with an endless sense of curiosity and wonder.
Yeah. Page 15.
Mm-hmm.
At least on my copy.
Yeah. We have the opportunity as military members to get a plethora of knowledge, but lately, due to COVID, we have, had an uptake in a lot of these professional development seminars. And I think they've done a lot of good for us, even though it's been hard for COVID. So what are your thoughts on how things have been going as far as development now? I know you are at the academy. You're still at the academy, right, Chief?
Yeah, more or less.
Mhm.
I'm employed by the academy, but I haven't been there in a year. So sure.
Right.
And I've got another year. About this time next year, if we talk, if we're doing this type of thing, Ashley, I'll be like days from retiring again. And that's my big retirement, where after that, I won't be working for anybody. So I'm looking forward to that. So I'm going to start counting days here pretty soon. Actually, after, long story, but I have to be 70 years of age to get my pension and all that. So that's the 19th of March, which is Friday, which there's still time. You can get on Amazon and send me something blue and in 4-wheel drive. Okay. So it's getting close, but I'll be turning 69 this Friday. And then again, next year, this time I'll be hitting 70, and then I'm free at last. But as far as development, I may not be the best person to answer that question, because I believe in continuous professional and personal development. I've been doing it all my life. I pride myself in, on average, I read 60 books a year. Last year I didn't read 60 because I got busy writing. I wrote 4 books last year. So, and all of that takes time. I'm not a fast reader, but I enjoy what I read, and I normally comprehend a lot of what I read. But anyway, I've always appreciated the opportunity to grow, and I do it mostly by reading. Nowadays, it's by talking online with people, it's okay. I'd rather be among people. Being able, I'm a touchy-feely kind of guy. I like to hug people and all, but obviously can't do that right now. But I'm hoping that we can get back to that. To me, that's normal. But anyway, I think there's a huge value actually in continuously developing yourself. Uh, and that's a personal thing. You can do it by, again, reading, studying, doing these workshops and all that stuff online, or whenever we can get back to personal, physical workshops. I'm starting to get booked already for the summer, which is good. I just got my second shot, so I should be clean and, be able to travel and all that. But you know what intrigued me about when you invited me to do this was one of my favorite words, and that's why, because the title of it was Why Professional Development. And I think as you consider what you're doing to develop yourself, that's the number one question: is why are you doing it? For some people like me, it's fun. I enjoy it. Like I call it air power, HEIR power. Everything not everything, but as much as I can, what I learn, I share with others. Air is a successor, and you're one of them. I'm sending you books. I'm sending you materials of thoughts every week, anytime that I can think of, that I can, so that it will give you an opportunity to grow, and maybe you'll enjoy growing like I do. Just recently, the reason I sent you that book was you posted or you sent me a note saying that you wanted to learn to write. Well, Nerburn is an incredible writer. I think you already learned that, like in the first 2 or 3 pages. And whatever I can do to help people to grow in whatever direction they're going, that's what I call air power. And if I can, I will help anybody. It doesn't matter. But again, the question is, why do you do this? I think the number one answer is going to be job opportunities. I can learn, you just finished your bachelor's or master's?
Long story, but let's say bachelor's for now, and then we'll
Okay.
go back and talk about it.
Okay. So, but whatever, congratulations. That's always good to get to that point where you got something to say, hey, I got a piece of paper, I've accomplished something. And that's good, because usually I think it inspires you to continue to do more. And that, great. But as Nerburn says, schooling isn't necessarily education nor learning. There's other ways. And if you read Nerburn, any of his books, Kent Nerburn, if you're anybody out there is interested, just go online and go to Amazon.com, and any of his books, you will learn something. He writes a lot about Native Americans, which is, I'm trying to regain my heritage. And a lot of the stuff that he writes about, it's interesting that it validates things that I already know about my heritage, but I didn't know that I knew them, that I practiced them. So I love his writing. But anyway, job opportunities, sure. The reason I got this job here at the Air Force Academy that I've been doing for 18 years was because I had a couple of master's degrees in the right jobs, the right topic subjects. What are they? Adult education, adult and higher education is one of them, and human relations is the other one. So it helped to get to that, and there's value in that. There's honor in that. Great, if that's why you want to do it. I don't know that when I was on active duty, we never had a rule that you had to have education, but it sure helped, and it got you ahead. In fact, the reason I got my master's degrees was that I was a senior enlisted advisor at Fairchild. And a job came up because I had been a commandant at the NCO Academy at March prior to that. So I went from the PME to SEA, and there was a job, or a couple of jobs, I guess, of PME commandants that had opened up. And I thought, hey, I want to go back to that because I really enjoyed it. And when I applied, I had a good friend who was the person that was hiring, and Dave Siemens was his name. And I called him up after I made my application. I said, what do you think? Do you have a chance? He said, probably not. I said, really? I mean, I already did it. I've got experience. These guys don't have any experience. He said, yeah, but you know what? They have like master's degrees. I already had a bachelor's, but they have master's degrees. Wow. Okay. That was not in the application. That was not one of the requirements, but nonetheless, education, PME, of course, that looks better. And I didn't get any of those jobs. So when I got to Ramstein, because I went from Fairchild to Ramstein, they had the University of Oklahoma had this program where master's degrees. So I decided not only to get one but to get two. So if you want to compete, I'll compete because I'm an overachiever, and I got two of them. So never knowing that was going to help me get, when I retired, to get this job that I got here. So, and I did that. I taught for 15 years. I haven't been teaching since then, but that's a good, I think, a good reason for professional development. Prestige, that can be. Several years ago, I'm going to say probably 10 years ago, someone put in my head that I should go for a PhD. my dilemma was, what would I call myself? Dr. Chief, Chief Doctor? You know, got to have the right right title, the right name. In my culture, the name is very important. So anyway, but no kidding, that was a dilemma. But what happened is I got accepted. I was in my first class, and interestingly, I wasn't. It was supposed to be about leadership, but it really wasn't. It was more about educational management, which kind of turned me off to begin with. But nonetheless, I said, I got into this. I'll see what I can do. But what happened is that all of my proteges out there throughout the world started writing me and calling me and saying, "Where are you? What happened to you?" I said, "What do you mean?" Because I was taking a lot of time doing the study, this class, and I couldn't do what air power. So pretty quickly I decided, no, that's not my identity. I can't do that. That's not, I don't need the prestige of having a PhD behind my name. I already have a title and people know me for it. And I have a lot of people that are, followers. So I decided not to. With education, unfortunately, you don't get a parking space. Wouldn't it be great if you got a master's degree and you had a parking space at the BX? Doesn't happen. Does not work. I mean, chiefs don't even get that anymore. So that there may be some prestige and some self actualization that you want. I always wanted to have a doctor in front of my name. Sure, go do it. That's a good reason. That's a good reason. But I think the real reason in my case, and I think maybe I'll ask anybody who's listening, might consider, it's just growth opportunities. Like I said, I call myself a serendipitous learner. I learned from so much. The snow, I have in the last, because of Melbourne, I have learned to appreciate the solitude of snow. And y'all don't get much snow, I don't think, down there in Texas, but wherever people are, whoever's listening, if you're in a place where there's snow, and it's not just snow, but there's plenty here, there is some really powerful solitude if you go out and listen to it. I'm learning. I don't think I'll be what do you call a bird person? I won't ever be able to identify the chirping and the bird singing and all that. But just recently, because I take my dog out, I got this little puppy that has to go out and pee, believe it or not. And but when I take him out, I listen. And the snow just brings so much solitude and helps me to listen better because it just quiets everything and I can hear the birds. Oh, and the other day I told Deb, there's a different bird out here. I've never heard this bird. It's beautiful. And I never saw it, so I don't know what it is. And again, I'm not going to be one of those folks that identifies those things, I don't think. But I think, why do we develop professionally? Well, that's the job part mostly, but personally, but that goes with the job. Again, I got I got blessed for 15 years because I had a diploma, 2 of them. And I think I'm pretty sure that I know they did, because the person who hired me and I are good friends, but they hired me because I was who I am, which is what it's a circle, it's a cycle, it's a sphere. The learning, the growing, the learning, it all is encapsulated in a sphere. So anyway, that's basically what I wanted to share with you, Ashley, and anybody else, that I think those are good reasons for professional development. Mm-hmm. And I think that the personal gratification of having accomplished something, having learned something, if you start to appreciate it and to value it, wow, because you can go, every time that I learn something, I think, wow, that's kind of cool. I know that now. Mm-hmm. The next level is, how can I share it? Let me share it with, I don't know who I've sent books to in the last month, but there are probably 20 or 30 people that I sent books that I've read something. I thought, wow, this is so you. When I was reading Simple Truths, I was thinking, that is so Ashley, let me send it to her. I can't help it. I got to send it to her because she wants to learn how to write. And, this is just beautiful stuff. So anyway, that goes back to air power. But to me, I think that's a good foundation for answering the question, why do it? You have your reasons, but those are some good reasons. Think about that. And eventually, you're going to leave a legacy. What's your legacy? I hope that my legacy, when I'm gone and you find out that I'm gone, you'll say, wow, he taught me a lot. That's what I hope I leave.
What do you think is one of the hardest things to learn. I mean, speaking as like professionally, what do you think is the hardest thing to learn? Because I mean, science for me sucks, but like
Yeah.
professional.
Well, and that, and I know there are some neuroscientists. I'm going to go see what my neurologist tomorrow. I think he's going to make me hurt. I don't relish that, but I got to go. But we say that there's a left brain and a right brain, and some people are more left brain oriented, some people are more right brain oriented. The truth is they work together. But some of us have more of a propensity for the arts. Some of us have one for the sciences, and thank goodness. I don't. I say I don't do numbers, and I don't do numbers, but I'm a musician. That's the creative part. But music is numbers, and if you have an analytical mind, you can break it down into numbers. If you have a creative mind, you say there's no way. So I'm not going to argue whether you want to do one or the other. I think though the question is, to answer your question, which is what's the hardest thing? I think the hardest thing to learn is to learn again. And I can remember this. My high school history teacher, Jack Hall was his name. I loved high school. It was the best 6 years of my life. But he was the ultimate teacher, because I ended up having a lot of time with him out of school. And everywhere that we went, he would help me. He would inspire me again to listen. We spent time in the desert, and he'd tell me about the lizards. The lizard does this, changes time, all of this stuff. And I'm thinking, wow, how did you know that? That's impressive to me to begin with. But to be able to know all those things about so many other things, that was all, it wasn't history. He never gave me a history lesson. It was just all life learning, I guess is what it was. But I learned through him to appreciate learning, to learn. Metacognition, I think is the term. And I think that's the most difficult thing, because we tend to go, like when we go to class, because that's how I think most of us perceive learning. I got to go to a class. Okay, what are you gonna learn? Science. That sucks. I hate it. That's not my thing. Okay, but I've been to science. To get the degrees that I have, I had to take science of some sort. But I learned other things from that were not necessarily what the teacher was teaching about science. 1 + 1 equals, well, you would say 2. But in my creative mind, I'm thinking, actually, it's 3 or more. Because 1, I have my opinion, you have your opinion. Now we have 3 opinions, or 4 opinions, or 5 opinions. So, I'm in my mind, in my creative mind, I'm adjusting those things so that I can remember things. Science, one of the things at the Air Force Academy that especially the freshmen hate is physics. I think it's 101, or the first physics. But I always, when I saw them, because I'd visit them at the library when they were studying, and I saw the physics books, and I could see their faces, oh, they hate this stuff. And then I'd go talk to them. And I talked to them a little bit about, what's the term? I can't think of big time physics, but black holes. Let's talk about black holes. What does it have to do? Because I taught character. What does it have to do with character? Well, a black hole in the universe sucks everything in, so that there is nothing left, and you can't get out of it. Well, that's kind of like character. If you don't have any character, your life, your whole identity is going to be sucked into this black hole, and you won't be anything. Oh, wow, geez, I never thought of it that way. Yeah. Think about it that way. It has to do with physics, but it has to do with character too. Again, serendipity, all of those things that come together. So, probably, and I don't remember, but probably in those classes, I would figure out a way to remember the things that I had to remember to take, to pass the class in another way. And again, that's just personal growth. And that's being a musician. I'm a jazz musician. And, jazz has to do with improvisation. There's a really good book called Jamming. John Cho wrote it, who says that the best leaders are jazz musicians, because they're constantly improvising. And if you've led folks already, a few, you have two kids, you and a husband, totally different, right? You have to improvise constantly to get through the day because there is no TO. When the husband comes in, you do this, do that. No. When the husband comes in, you listen and you go with what, the song, you just go with the flow. Your babies, when you pick them up from school, you don't know what's going to happen. There is no manual for that.
Okay.
It's going to happen. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. Go with it. So I think, and that even with leading people, I think that's learning to learn is the critical part. And if you learn to appreciate that, the more you practice that in all of these different realms, I think the more successful you're going to be, in particular with things that you don't like. But I still, what is ADLS?
Yes.
Right.
Well, don't worry. It's going away. It's gone. You don't have to worry about it anymore.
Okay.
They're replacing it. So you get another system to learn.
Yeah. What are they going to replace it with? At one time we didn't have it. And when they brought it, it was, we're going to replace what you had before with this. Because I think it was actual briefings. We had to go to the base theater and get these briefings in all of these subjects. Oh no, we got this really cool technology. We call it ADLS. Oh, cool. Well, that lasted for about one cycle, and then this sucks. And then we did it for 100 years, and now it's going to. So it's not going to get any better, I don't think. But nonetheless, and think about this. Everybody knows, and I can't remember the names. Jeff. Right, everybody knows Jeff, that the character in those videos, the guy that forgets his phone or somebody steals it,
and those guys.
Yeah, so everybody knows them now. So make the best out of it. Who in their right mind keeps a fire extinguisher in their living room next to the television? You make the best out of it. You make the fun of it. Have fun with it, and you get through it. So. Not that we learn anything. It's just there is square, and I'm not much for square filling. Ashley, that's one thing that I don't like about our education system is that to get your degree you have to do this, and this. Who said? A bunch of old white farts, guys, men. They don't let women in, and they don't let people of color in. I'm just being facetious, but who decided that to be good at leading you have to go do these things? Who said that? It wasn't the followers.
Right.
Because otherwise it'd probably be different. I would like my leader to know these things. Well, that's not in the course, so forget it. That's
I'm
silly.
with you. I love taking classes that are fun to me. They had a women in the military class, and I was actually going to take it, but I never got the opportunity to. But I was really excited because I was going to take that course. I'm like, I'm going to love this course. I'm going to take it, but that's okay. I mean, there's always other opportunities. But what you're saying about making the relationship with things and appreciating learning. So I did post something online because I'm taking a class about the brain right now, the biological basis of psychology or something like that. It's something that has to do with the brain. So I posted something about the hippocampus, and you had commented on it. I don't remember exactly what you said, but the reason I remember the hippocampus, and it's spelled HIPPO and then campus, right? And it is a part of the brain that you use the section of the brain for learning. And I think of a hippo with a Letterman sweater, and that's how I remember it. I'm like, the campus. Got it. And even with the neuron, the synapse and stuff like that, I have my own little thing going on with like the potassium and the sodium, the Chiquita banana lady and the salt lady walking around. So I have my own method too. So I'm thinking that, we're here with the creativity. Because when I told my husband this, because he's more logistical and more technical about things, he's looking at me like, Chiquita banana, what are you talking about, actually? but I'm with you, and I think that making those connections makes learning fun. And for people, which brings me to my next question for you, is for people that are intimidated. So I got out of, my dad was actually in the Army, and I had his GI Bill, and I was going to college for a little while before I came into the military. And honestly, I needed the self-discipline. I did not do well. I missed a lot of classes. I was just being a young teenage person wanting to go and hang out with my friends. So, you know, I came into the military. I didn't go to school for a long time, and I never really took it seriously until I hit about 30. And when I was about to come into college, I was so scared. I was so intimidated. I was so apprehensive about going into it because I didn't want to fail. So when it comes to the enlisted adults going back to school after X amount of years, what type of advice would you give to them to maybe inspire them to go ahead and take that leap and go back to school?
I think go back to what I said originally. Why? Why are you doing this? Like I said, and well, I told you already, I'm about to turn 69 Friday, and blue is my color, and I like four-wheel drive. I'll just add it one more time. Just educators say you have to say it 7 times before people remember it. So that's two. Why are you doing this? Is like I said, when I started my PhD program, my purpose was wrong. I wanted the prestige, I guess. I thought, well, actually, the reason I started that program was because I wanted to learn more about the topics of the subject that I was teaching already, character and leadership. And like I said, it didn't teach me anything. I already knew more and had more of expansive experience than the teachers did, because they were professors. They had been doing this stuff for 80 years, little old farts with white hair telling me about these theories that don't work anymore, that are outdated anymore. Sure, that's great to have if you're going to talk about history historically, but it doesn't work anymore. So anyway, I didn't, and I'm not saying, I'm not trying to be egotistic or anything. It's just that's the way it was. And having led for 31 years, I mean, no kidding, leading, and then going back to study this stuff and learning that, or the theories were wrong. That just was not my thing. So again, my purpose in doing that was the wrong purpose. In fact, my advisor kept asking me, "Why are you doing this?" And I tell her, because I think it's fun. I can learn. She didn't tell me outright, but she was kind of subliminally telling me, "This is not for you. You don't need to be doing this. You already you. Don't try to be anybody else." So again, I think number one is, why are you doing this? Is it going to help you? Now, there are, I hope, some people. I think you might know Chief Simmons, Todd Simmons. He retired last year. I think I think it's been a year. He was the command chief at Air University. And he was smart enough to start his transition about a year out. And I think he's pretty successful right now, but it took them some time, because it does. And plus doing your job, but he figured out, I got to do this. I got to learn this. I got to study these things so that I can start my new chapter as a civilian. So what is your purpose? Is it to set yourself up for something else? Great. That's fine. Job opportunities. That's sometimes you have to do that. Is it because you just want to learn? To me, that's more fun. I just want to learn. I'm in what do we call this? The dean's, I don't even know what it's called. There's this program that the academy has over on the dean side, the real, no kidding, PhDs and all that stuff. And you take these courses and you get a certificate at the end. And I think there's 5 courses. I've taken about 15. I don't want to graduate, because I love being with those guys. They teach me every time that I have a course, they teach a class, and I love learning that stuff. I don't care to fill the square. I don't care about the certificate. I just care about the growth, the learning, because it gives me more ideas on how I can do my thing better, and that's what I want to learn. So that's my purpose. So again, Ashley, I think it just depends on why are you wanting to do it. No one in my family has a bachelor's degree. And I'm so close, I don't know the specifics, but CCAF gives you a lot of credits, right? I mean, from day one, you're way ahead of a lot of people. So man, wouldn't it be a cool thing? And this is, I guess, about a sense of honor. Wouldn't it be a cool thing for one of us in my family to graduate from college? Who would that be? Well, maybe my kids, I've given them my GI Bill and all that stuff, but you know what? I can do it. That may be a little bit of prestige, but that's probably more honor. That I was the first in my family to graduate from college, and that was pretty cool. Didn't do it for money, didn't affect me any other way, but that was a cool thing to say. And my mom, Here's my son, the graduate. Cool. That's very cool. That there's honor in that. So I think the hard thing and the first thing to do actually is to figure out, why do you want to do this? Once you found your why, then how, you'll figure that out. I use my GI Bill. I go to these classes, like whatever it is. But I think that's I don't know that it's the most difficult thing, but I think it's the most critical thing. And if you have the right why, you'll continue on. No kidding. This is for my kids. I want them to see that they too can do this, but I can't teach them to do this unless I do it. That's a pretty powerful why. And I think most people will go ahead and finish, as hard as it may be.
I agree. Legacy, what you were talking about earlier too, is important. I'm with you on my kids I have two girls, so for me, it's important that they see me never quit. Mom can't quit, because I'm not going to teach my daughters that, to quit, or, I'm going to teach my daughters to, know that they can have a life where they can be educated and where they can have ambition and grow up and be successful women. So no matter what they want to do, honestly, I know a lot of parents take a lot of pride in what their kids do, but I do believe that one of the most important things, well, if not the most important thing, is happiness, and finding that happiness, and learning how to navigate your life to even get to that point, because it's always a struggle. You never know what's going to happen in life. The pandemic has interrupted a lot of things, and to just have the drive to keep going and just get through it, to reach that point. Do you have any memories or any stories about any type of, as a PME commandant, where you had to change somebody's view of education, or, help them get to a different level?
Yeah, and remind me if I lose track, okay? This has to do with the graduation parade at March. Okay, remind me of that. So, but here's the thing. Let me go back to because you used the H word, and a lot of people they get wound up with this H word, and that's happiness. I don't think, this is my personal opinion. But it's based on all of this, my introspection and observation of life. Happiness isn't something that is a continuous thing. I don't think you can be happy forever, a week, 2 weeks. I don't know. There are two types of times: Chronos and Kairos. Chronos is how we mostly perceive time, from for an hour, 1700 to 1800. That's Chronos. And we live in the Chronos world. You get, when do we meet? At 1800. Okay, that's Chronos. Kairos, on the other hand, has to do with a moment. And let me see if I can use a good example, and this may not work. But you've had two daughters. Do you remember what time they were born?
6:55 p.m. for my oldest and 2 a.m. for my youngest.
But you're having to think of that, right? You're having to use that. What is it? The hypochondriac thing.
The hippocampus.
Yeah. But it goes through the amygdala. That was my question that I sent you. It goes through the amygdala first, and that's the emotion. It's right there between at the bottom of the brain. You can, at this very moment, you can feel what it felt like when you first saw each of your kids. Mm-hmm. Right? I mean, just like that. You started nodding before I even finished saying it. That's how fast you can revert to that feeling that you had. And knowing a little bit about you, I think that was a very, very happy moment, especially when the pain was gone, right?
Yeah.
After the shot kicked in, oh, bring it on. Let's have a couple more. Bring them on. But I think, Ashley, that is happiness, isn't it? That was a moment. How long did that last? Well, it goes back and forth, right? There are moments when you love your kid so much that this almost an ethereal feeling that this is it. You know, when the Buddha awoke from being enlightened, he said, this cannot be taught. Happiness cannot be taught. Let me read you something. Happiness is like success. Okay, I'm going to use success. Happiness is the same, a similar term. There's a book, another book. In fact, I probably should send it to you, called "Man's Search for Meaning." Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl was a Jewish man who was on Auschwitz and Dachau, and he developed this method of psychoanalysis and stuff, logotherapy, with logo, which means meaning in Greek. And he in the preface of the book Man's Search for Meaning, he writes something that is incredible. And let me read it to you. And you can think of happiness instead of success. He says, quote, "Don't aim at success. The more you aim at it and make it a target, the more you are going to miss it. For success, like happiness, cannot be pursued. It must ensue. And it only does so as the unintended side effect of one's personal dedication to a cause greater than oneself, or as the byproduct of one's surrender to a person other than oneself. Happiness must happen, and the same holds for success. You have to let it happen by not caring about it. I want you to listen to what your conscience commands you to do and go on to carry it out to the best of your knowledge. Then you will live to see that in the long run, I say, success will follow you precisely because you had forgotten to think about it." To me, that's powerful, and it interchanges happiness and success. So, and this is where my path is heading and where my journey is taking me. Again, going back to Nurburn, reading Nurburn, that moment that I go outside with my dog and understand, or try to understand, the universe, that moment, that's happiness. Then he starts to do crap, literally crap. Then life changes. Obviously, to me, and I don't see that as happiness, because that's life. But for that little moment, I had happiness. And I think I hope that all of us have that moment every day, at least once or twice or 50 times, whatever. But I think what we think we're looking for is like success, that this is something that continues on for 10 years, all our lives, whatever it is. This moment that we're having right now with me talking to you and anyone who else who's listening, that I'm happy right now. It'll end here shortly. When you cut me off, you say, "You're done. Okay, I'll go back to life," and whatever. But those are moments of happiness. And I think, again, we think that happiness is something that we have for long periods of time. No, take that moment. That's happy. Go back to it. And you can remember it forever. That's the amygdala. Mm. That's the amygdala. Your kids. I mean, I was the first, with both of my daughters, I have two of them. I was the first human to see Tessa, my oldest. I can right now, I don't even have to close my eyes, actually. I can't tell you how it feels. I can't. There's no way. Just like you couldn't tell me how you felt when you had your kids. You can't tell it. This cannot be taught. This exists, and that's okay. That's as far as we should go. But I can see right now, I can feel how I felt when I first saw Tessa. I saw that much of her head. I don't know how many centimeters it was, but and then all hell broke loose pretty much after that. With my baby, my second baby, I saved her life because she came out with the cord, and things were crazy. It was around her neck. She was blue, and things got crazy because the nurses weren't ready, blah, blah, blah. So it was the doc and me and Deb, and the doc told me what to do. And because it was just she and I delivering Elise, and I did what she told me, and thank goodness I didn't faint or nothing, but I saved her life. And not that I was happy having to go through that, or her going through that, but that's a feeling of happiness that I can never forget. Again, I can't explain it, but you understand, and I think most of us understand. We've been through that moment. The first time you saw me, Whoa, ruggedly, you know how to use, you didn't know what term to use. Ruggedly handsome is the term, honestly. Okay. I think I've taught you that since we've known each other. But that's a moment of joy, a moment of happiness. Well, look for those things. Learning again, going back to learning that thing with Nurburn. I'm up at 0300. I start to read about the 0400, and that's my good time to learn, especially what Nurburn teaches. And a lot of times he, in his writing, again, my quest is to rediscover my heritage. And when he says something that it strikes me like snow, when I read about the snows here, because he writes a lot about this part of the country, of course, I understand. That's happiness. And I can go revert to that in a second, and I can feel good for that minute or two, whatever. We can do that. We have the capacity to do that. Our brain is that great that we can do that. So again, like in work, are you happy all the time? I doubt it. But are there moments? So many. I can think of so many, especially at the tomorrow. I get to talk to I don't know how many cadets. One of my proteges is inviting me to talk to his squadron. That's happiness for me. I don't know how long it'll last. I hope an hour and a half or something. But just being with them, that's enough to be happy for me. I hope that makes a little bit of different sense. And again, it's just moments. We live our lives in moments. We don't live them in days and hours. Again, you had to think about what time that baby was born. I kind of have an idea of when my girls were born, but I really don't know what time. I don't really care. I know the moment, and I'll always remember that moment.
Yeah, I agree. That's a different perspective. I've never thought about it like that. And speaking of, I've never in my life up until starting school learned how to think about things differently. There's always another way, and there's always a different path, always a, other way to do something, to find something, to be somewhere, to be someone, to do something. There's so many different ways to accomplish something. If you're not successful in the Air Force, maybe you will be successful having your own business when you retire, or maybe you don't have your degree, but you're the best electrician or whatever. And that's the cool thing that I've really discovered about learning, is to be that open-minded to where I can say, wow, Chief, that was beautiful, and that truly inspired me, because I never thought about it like that. And it can get stressful trying to chase that happiness. And by you saying, just take the moments, it actually kind of relieves that stress.
Right. And again, remember what Frankl said: you cannot pursue that. Mm-hmm. If you're looking for happiness, it's like looking for the right person, the right man, like your husband. I don't know. We've never talked about it, but that probably, I know it with me. I was not looking for Deb. I was not looking for.
Oh, I wasn't looking for my.
It just happened. It happened. That's a miracle, It happened. So if you're looking for it, chances are it's not going to happen. If it ensues because you're doing something bigger, something more powerful, more, and again, and like he says, not just for something bigger than yourself, but someone else possibly, to help them. That's what, again, goes back to air power. When I'm focused on helping someone, inevitably it comes back to me in many ways. You try, just as exponentially.